What's up, Bulls Nation? You find yourselves locked on Bulls. I'm Matt. That's Big Dave. Up ahead on today's episode, lots to break down from over the weekend. The Bulls get wins over Minnesota and OKC. Zach LaVine's knee is a thing again. That's a problem. Good news department injury-wise, the Bulls get Derrick Jones Jr. back unexpectedly early. So we got to talk about all of that next on a fresh Locked On Bulls. Let's go.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here are your hosts, Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson.
What's up and welcome in to Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Matt Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. You can follow my co-host Big Dave Watson at BAW, B-A-W-L Sport. You can follow us at Locked On Bulls. Also hit us up on that text voicemail line, 331-979-1369. With the All-Star break coming at the back end of this week, we will definitely make some time to get to some mailbag stuff. So hit us up at that number. Today's episode brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, it's where the game starts. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed Super Bowl weekend. But the Super Bowl was not the highlight of the weekend for me and my friend Big Dave here. The highlight of the weekend, shout out to John, a.k.a. Loaf23 on Twitter. Appreciate you, buddy. Hits me up in my DMs Friday saying, hey, can't use my tickets tonight. Do you want them? And I say, I certainly do, and I know who I want to go with. Amazing seats. You may have seen me and my pal Dave here on your televisions watching Bulls Wolves on Friday night. Row 4 behind the scorer's table, right there behind Adam and Stacy. Those were, I don't know about you, Dave, some of the best seats I've ever had at the United Center. Thank you again to John for those tickets. That was so much fun, Dave.
Yeah, it was honestly really amazing. First of all, shout out to the fans that were coming up to us, telling us how much they enjoyed the show, and we're taking pictures with it. I didn't get the guys' names. We were in section 328. Shout out to Buzz, because I finally
shout out to Buzz from Bulls on Tap and his boys. Hung out with him for a while.
Yeah, that was fun meeting him, man. But met some fans up there. I took some pictures with. I didn't get their names, but y'all got love for me, and I got love for y'all, man, because they were singing the McDonald's theme to me, because they like that, and they enjoyed it, and I was like, right on, man. So they were cool, man. So shout out to y'all. But yeah, man, the highlight, Matt, was meeting Adam Amin for the first time, and it just really kind of bugged me out that he was really happy to meet me and really like looking forward to meeting me. And I was
Who isn't happy to meet you, Dave?
Dude, it's still wild to me. It is. I'm like, oh man, just hugging Adam Amin, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was real cool, man, and talking to him, and that was really awesome. It was a great time. So man, I had a blast. I had an absolute blast.
It was a lot of fun. And also shout out to Mario and his wife Lupe. I got to meet Lupe when I handed off the Lonzo Ball autograph picture earlier on Friday when I was running around making errands. And thank you again to Lupe. She gave me some tacos. Yes. I showed up at their front door to hand off the Lonzo giveaway, and she handed me back a sack full of tacos from El Patron. By the way, amazing spot if you're looking for tacos in Logan Square. I had a delicious free lunch. It was amazing. Shout out to Mario and Lupe. All kinds of fun stuff, getting to interact with our Bulls fan community over the weekend. And we also were treated to an incredible game of basketball on Friday night, Dave. Let's talk about this Bulls win over Minnesota, because to me, the story of the first half was not anything that the Bulls were doing, but DeMar, of course, was in his bag. The story of the first half is the Bulls could not stop Anthony Edwards. That young man, slippery. He's incredible, Dave. Anthony Edwards, the Bulls had no solutions for Anthony Edwards.
Dude, and it's funny because I don't think the league has many solutions for Anthony Edwards, man. But I think that was my first time just really watching him, because you would see his stats, you would see what he would do, and you were like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he looks like he's, pretty good. But my goodness, seeing it in person, the explosiveness. I mean, he would make a move. His first step is insane. Like, he would make that one move and he was gone. And then he's got the size to where you can't get in front of him, and the athleticism to where you can't stop him when he gets to the rim. it was just really, really impressive. And yeah, man, like it was just awesome to watch. He's going to be a headache though, like for some coaches, man, because the antics I was seeing him do on the court when he was yelling at Karl Anthony Towns, because he wasn't in the right. But I'm like, dude, you're a rookie. Like he's snapping on this dude, man. I'm like, that's crazy. And just seeing how mad he would get, and then I saw the ref give him a foul just because he was talking to the ref disrespectfully. The ref gave him a foul that wasn't a foul. Like, yeah, I hope he doesn't go to the DeMarcus Cousins route, and because it's going to make his life harder in the NBA. But he's a talent. But bottom line, that dude is a straight up and down talent.
Really fun to watch him play up close. I mean, he is incredible. And the Bulls were able to win this game in spite of the fact that he and Towns combined for, I think about 60 points. I think there was 31 and 27 respectively for Edwards and Towns. This was a back and forth game. This was a tight game through 3 quarters, Dave. And then really what we saw was the Bulls' offensive execution in the fourth quarter just blew the doors off the building. Big shots from Coby White, who has been kind of up and down trying to find his stroke from behind the 3-point line since returning earlier this season. But talk about some big time shots from Coby White in that fourth quarter. And look, once again, we're talking about a Bulls team that gave up 122 points, but it's okay because they put up 134, including what was offensively, I think one of the most impressive things that we've seen from the Bulls this season was that fourth quarter against Minnesota.
Matt, the execution of that team in the fourth quarter was astounding and just amazing to watch and to see live. It was amazing, Matt. We haven't seen that kind of execution in a while. It's been a minute since we've seen that kind of precise execution. My favorite play in that fourth quarter, I think it was about maybe 6:50 or so to go in the game. They're running their play. The clock's running down. They're kind of taking their time. And I'm like, why aren't they moving faster? Why aren't they doing anything? And they're like, chill, we're executing. This is how execution works, Dave. Chill out. And so they're passing it around. They get it to free throw line extended to Vooch. Or actually, they get it to the 3-point line to Vooch. Vooch turns because he's got a lane to go to the rim. He turns, he takes a couple steps to the rim, gets right around free throw line extended, goes up in the air, and at that time, you see Ayo cutting right to the basket, which draws 2 defenders towards him. When he does that, Vooch, the intelligence of Nikola Vucevic, because I didn't even see this, but he knew where Coby White was when those cuts happened, and I mean kicked it back out to him on at the elbow for the 3-point shot that Matt and we both stood up like, and it was swish. It was so beautiful. I watched that play at least 5 times when I got back home, man, because I was just so impressed with the vision of a guy that's 7 feet tall in the center to know where Coby White was, and for Coby White to just be right there, and for Ayo to make that cut to draw that defense to him to allow Coby White to be that wide open. It was a beautiful, beautiful play.
And there was DeMar DeRozan doing his thing. By my count, 16 points in the fourth quarter. 16 of his 35 in the fourth quarter. And it didn't matter. The Wolves were sending double teams at him pretty regularly because he was either just beating the double team by himself or he was passing out of the double team and making the right reads and making the right plays, passing out of the double team. But I mean, what more can you say about DeMar DeRozan? He continues to do this in fourth quarters. That was his 5th straight game with 30+. Then the next night against OKC, that makes 6 straight with 30+. We'll talk about that in a bit, but my goodness. And the he's too little that DeMar DeRozan gave to the obnoxious and always in your face Pat Beverly.
Always.
Man. Oh,
dude.
Cherry on top of a beautiful night for DeMar. But real quick, we have to also give some love in this game, Big Dave. Javonte Green.
Oh, my goodness, man.
23 points. Goodness. 23 points from your guy who is basically not there to do anything offensively.
Dude, he kept the Bulls in the game in the first quarter. It was Javonte Green. That's the reason they were in that game, was Javonte Green. Javonte got hot from that 3-point line early. Ooh. And I mean, the tip ends, Matt, the cuts, it was just all on full display. And seeing this up close, I don't realize how physical he is. I know he's scrappy. You know he does those things like that. But when I say that, when Karl-Anthony Towns was setting them screens, I mean, he was setting screens, man.
You could
And I mean,
hear it.
Javonte,
From our seats, you could hear the impact of those Town screens.
And you was like, ooh, like Javonte, like, oh, Jesus, he's taking that. I was like, is he okay? And then he comes back down, you know what I'm saying, and then goes in and gets the rebound and scores. Like, it was just amazing watching him play that kind of role, because usually that's the role, just for the everyday guy, get a couple points and things like that. No, he scored 23 big points. And also shout out to Ayo too, who had 14 and 10. And a lot of that he did in the second half. That was huge too, because Patrick Beverley tried to give it to him. Like you said, tried to give him the too small early on in the game, man. Ayo gave it right back to him a little later on. But yeah, man, Javonte was special that game. We don't win it without him.
I mean, a lot of defenses have been kind of just ignoring him recently. In that, whoever is on Javonte will help whoever is, on their side of the floor, because Javonte is really not much of a threat offensively. But guess what? Like you said, when he can knock down those corner threes, he was 3 of 4 from behind the 3-point line. And Billy talked about it after the game. More importantly than knocking down the occasional 3-pointer is making those cuts off the ball and finding those opportunities where he can be a threat when defenses decide to ignore him. And whether it's making cuts baseline or making cuts diagonally through the paint, or, as you also mentioned, those opportunities for offensive boards, tip-ins, and high-flying, put-back dunks and things like that. Javonte, we have learned, can eat offensively when he makes some threes and is causing, havoc around the paint.
And real quickly, shout out Tony Bradley too. Tony Bradley played a really, really solid game off the bench. Those were 13 big minutes he had, and those 2 blocks he had were awesome. So I thought he did a really solid job off the bench, awesome, and giving Vooch some rest.
Awesome swats. All right, we got more to talk about. OKC game, injury updates. But first, Big Dave, tell the people about the Built Bars.
Oh, you know what you want. You know you got to have them, because your stomach is rumbling, your tummy is grumbling, and you want something to eat. But the rest of your body is saying, don't give me none of that sugar. Don't give me that bad stuff, man. I might shut down on you. They got something for you. It's called Built Bars. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein, and they are all covered in 100% real chocolate. And there's so many wonderful flavors. You got your mint brownie, you got your coconut, you got your coconut almond, and of course, they got the flavor of the month for you. Matt Peck, could you please let them know, please?
Well, they always got the raspberry flavor available for you at Built.com, but right now, for a limited time, it's the other berry everybody loves, strawberry Built Bars, baby. Love strawberry.
Love it. You want it. Built.com is where you go. 15% off your order is what you get if you use the code LOCKED15. That is the code LOCKED15 to get yourself 15% off at Built.com. Built Bar. We still love you, Zach Gilford.
All right, moving along, breaking down the Bulls action over the weekend. Maybe some Bulls fans' favorite thing about Friday, Dave. DNP for Matt Thomas, maybe?
It was incredible watching him work out on the sideline.
There were a few times throughout Friday night where you were looking over, you're like, it was like a timeout, and Matty was doing. You're like, yeah, Matty, you're ready, Matty Legend. Maybe ready. Never needed. Thank goodness. But we might be back to needing some occasional spot minutes from Matt Thomas, because guess what? No Zach LaVine on Saturday night. Second night of a back-to-back, because you and I saw it, Big Dave, on Friday. There were a couple of plays where, and one of them was a dunk, Zach LaVine just came up a little gimpy looking, a little wince here or there, clearly not at his full athletic self. His sprite even looks a little bit different. His gait looks different. And you're wondering, is it still the back spasms? Is it the knee? Are these things connected? And without Zach, the Bulls are able to get enough done after digging a 14-point hole against a bad Thunder team. And, DeMar, another 30-plus point night. Vooch, some turnover troubles in the first half, but he's able to bounce back. He finishes with another strong night. And, it was just kind of like a gunky game against that Thunder team that's young and doesn't have a whole lot going on. But we talked about it. These winnable games leading up to the All-Star break, Without Zach, you'll take that win against the Thunder. It wasn't pretty, but you'll take it.
Yeah. The game started, the Thunder came out hot. They came out, really, really hot against the Bulls. And all I kept saying was, as long as they're in striking distance, we'll be fine. And that felt so good to say, because I haven't been able to say that for 4 years. So that felt really good to say that we're just in striking distance of being, and we were down like 15. I'm like, well, if they're in striking distance, they'll be fine. And they just stayed around. They hung around. You know what I mean? Got the lead to 8, got the lead to 6. And then, they closed the deal in the fourth quarter because they got the better player in DeMar DeRozan. But yeah, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't ugly. But as I keep saying, it's a game-by-game basis. And all we have to do in the end is stack the W's. That's the most important thing, is the W. I don't care how you get it. I don't care how it looks. Of course, you want it to look like it did Friday night. But it's not going to always look like that. As long as it looks like that in the win column, that's the only thing that's going to matter to me in the end, Matt. But yeah, like it was definitely an ugly game. But those are games that, you've got to pull out, especially if you're the better team like the Chicago Bulls.
I mentioned the game from Vooch, 31 and 15. We talk about that, in earlier stretches this season, Vooch was not giving the Bulls enough as the third option, who sometimes needs to be the second option. When somebody's out, whether it were, DeMar or Zach. And in this recent stretch of games lately where Zach was out and then came back for a couple games and is out again, in this last 10 games, here's what Vooch is doing in these last 10 games.
Explode to me, Matt Peck.
23.7 points on 60% shooting from the field, 12.8 boards, 3.7 assists, 1.3 blocks.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's good.
We get some people in our mentions and in the comments saying, you guys are sticking up for Vooch too often and you don't call him out when he plays poorly. We've always called out the bad Vooch games when the bad Vooch games exist and say that we need more from him. In this recent stretch of games, the Bulls are getting more from him. And especially in the absence of Zach LaVine, DeMar needs a sidekick. Because, like in those games like the Orlando game where Vooch played terribly, DeMar had 40 plus and it didn't matter. The Bulls still lost. You need Vooch to play at that all-star level, especially when Zach is out. And right now, Vooch is giving you that version of himself.
And this is why it's so important, Matt, is he's getting the reps that he's used to getting, down in Orlando as being that option that, one of the first or two options. That's key for a guy who was trying to figure out his role early on in the season when the Bulls, weren't fully healthy, but, of course, had more players to go around. That's going to be so important come playoff time when everybody gets back, because now Vooch kind of understands what his role is. Now he knows who does what player is going to be looking for him, where he needs to be on the floor, exactly how certain guards are going to play, how certain cuts are going to happen, for the offense, and also how it looks for him when he gets the basketball and they need him to be the scorer, because it's going to be good time. If you're a third option, that means they're going to need you to score. What I mean? It's going to come up. So whether it's going to be with the second unit, whether it's starting early on in the first quarter, whether it comes down to that fourth quarter where he hits that big old three that he usually hits. He's learning now exactly what the Bulls want from him, because he kind of said that early on, like, I'm just learning my role. I'm still figuring it out. That's basically saying I don't know yet where I'm supposed to be, but I'm figuring out exactly where I'm supposed to be. Having these injuries out is the only blessing in the fact that these guys are injured, is it's got Vooch back on track, and it got him knowing, like, okay, bet this is what I need to do. This is where it is. And the chemistry, Matt, for him and Ayo, that's going to be prevalent.
It's nice.
Oh,
it's nice, man.
It's going to be so important, Matt, when it comes around, when Lonzo and everybody gets back and he's playing more with that second unit or however they want to do it. It's going to be big, man. But yeah, Vooch dominated. Get that man his flowers. He was balling out of control.
Yeah, Ayo, 19 assists over the weekend, back-to-back Friday, Saturday. And what, on Friday, Vooch had one of those games where he kind of flourished with a triple-double because he's being a facilitator as well as a scoring threat. And on Saturday, Vooch tallied not a single assist. But you know why? It's because Billy and the Bulls recognized, look, this is a pretty small Thunder team. Just feed Vooch the ball. And it was one of those nights where his three-point shot was off. He was 0 of 4 from downtown, but he was 14 for 21 inside the three-point line. He took 21 shots inside the three-point line, and he made 14 of them. So that's just recognition of, look, Bulls fans talk sometimes about Vooch getting, outplayed by whoever the Bulls are going up against big man-wise. And, Towns had himself a pretty darn good game on Friday night, and it's not like the Thunder have any dominant big. So, hey, if Vooch can get 31 points and take, on whatever it was, 25 shots, you'll take that in a win because it's just the Bulls recognizing, look, this is a night where you got to feed Vooch. No Zach. DeMar's going to do his thing. DeMar got to the free throw line 16 times, by the way. But it is the multifaceted ways that Vooch can be effective on the offensive end and just adjusting to what your opponent and what your game plan is night in and night out. Do we want to get the, point center version of Vooch that has somewhere between 6 and 8 assists along with, 16 or 20 points? Or do you want to just do the give Vooch the damn ball method? Because they can both be effective.
Yes. And they both help you win basketball games. And that's the point of this. 2 different versions of Vooch you saw. 2 victories in both of those games. You saw the Vooch that could facilitate and get everybody involved while also rebounding and scoring. Then you saw how Vooch can actually be a dominant center in this league like he is, especially when you don't have a big man to stop him. He's that good. You know what I'm saying? This kind of talent you just don't find. You just don't get that, guys. And we should be lucky that we got him here, man. Honestly, guys, we should be very, very lucky that this dude is here on this team because I'm going to say it again because I know y'all sick of me saying it. You're gonna need him. You're gonna need him.
Real quick, shout out to Troy Brown Jr. for one of the greatest stat lines I've ever seen. 28 minutes. This is like flirting with Tony Snell territory.
Yes, it
28 minutes, 0 points on 0 of 9, 11 rebounds, and zeros across the rest of the box.
Give that man the Tony Snell Award, okay? I mean,
how is that possible?
And shout out to him because I'm sure everybody was going crazy, including myself, was going crazy about his shot selection and how he was playing. But credit to him and credit to Billy Donovan for saying this ain't working. I'm gonna go get these rebounds and coming down with the game deciding rebound for them. That sealed the game. The rebound that he got at the end sealed the game for the Chicago Bulls. Shout out to him for getting it, and shout out to Billy Donovan for still believing in him and having him out there.
But Billy Donovan has also said very recently, we need more from our bench. Like
yes,
he sees what's going on here. And, unfortunately, Troy Brown Jr. had to start on Saturday because no Zach LaVine. But clearly the Bulls, they need more from their bench because their bench is not a real NBA bench right now, plain and simple. Good news and bad news injury-wise over the weekend. We will talk about that next. But first, real quick, today's episode brought to you by Bet Online. The football season might be over, folks, but guess what? Basketball is in full swing for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, for boxing, UFC, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline. It's where the game starts.
Yeah.
All right, so Zach LaVine resting second night of a back-to-back, but on top of that, we got a report, Dave, from Adrian Wojnarowski that said Bulls all-star guard Zach LaVine is traveling to Los Angeles to get further evaluation on his left knee, but still hopes to participate in next Sunday's all-star game. LaVine's been experiencing discomfort in the knee for several weeks, and although a January MRI showed no structural damage, there's certainly a level of concern within the organization. That is the latest we have. No word yet on what this, second professional opinion that he went to LA to get has said. I think I am one of many out there at Bulls Nation who is looking at this and saying, not only is Zach clearly going to and should rest these last 2 games before the All-Star break, do we really want Zach participating in All-Star activities? Because if if he's just shut down now through the All-Star break, you're looking at pretty much a 2-week break. And maybe Zach needs that. There was a little bit of good news sprinkled in there, which was Billy Donovan saying it is the knee. The back spasms are something that he has moved past. So it sounds like, hopefully, knock on wood, the back spasms were just a short-term thing and that this is just back to being a knee problem. But it is the same knee that he had the torn ACL in. That was, something he recovered from all the way back to 2017. But it seems to be a lingering problem, Dave. How concerned are you about this latest news about Zach LaVine and that left knee?
If I had to base it on a scale of 1 to 10, my concern level is about a 4.
Okay, well, I'm at a 9. So tell me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to be anywhere else. I'm up to here with it. But yeah, I'm probably at a 4, maybe even a 3. I could argue, and I think it's Matt only because I can't get mad at something I can't control. Like, I don't know anything, and I'm always hoping for the best for it. And I'm like, well, we'll see what it is. And obviously, it's an issue because he's going to see a specialist. I talked about this with you. Like, he reminds me of me in the sense of, if he says he's hurt, he's really hurt. Like, if I'm hurt, if something's wrong with me, a lot of people just won't know it. But if I tell you something's wrong with me, something's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's really, really, really wrong. So Zach strikes me as that kind of guy. Because you heard him talk about playing through back spasms, playing through all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, we're a winning team. Like, you can relax. You know what I'm saying? Go take a break right now. Nope, team needs me out there. The man flew to OKC. You know what I'm saying? Just because he saw them get beat up by the Magic. He flew there and brought Javonte with him. Like, no, we're going out there, dude. We're going to play. I don't know if he was ready to go yet, but he said he was ready to go. So he went out there and he went. We saw him, Matt, on that play with the Wolves, go up and get that dunk and just come down real gingerly. Like you said, like, saw it. And we were like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. Nope, ain't right. But what does Zach do? No, I'm still playing. I'm still out there and I'm going to still keep hooping.
Played
like that.
37 minutes on Friday night.
Come on, man. Like, this, sometimes, Matt, and a lot of NBA players have said this, but sometimes you got to save the player from themselves. And it feels like that this is what it is. If we're talking about your knee and the knee that, that took you out, early on in your career, if you're talking about that and shooting some 3-pointers and playing, in a meaningless game that is just for our entertainment, I'm going to need you to go ahead and have several seats and just go ahead and relax and sit down. I'm going to need some people to jump in on there for that, for him,
right?
Because you got to save him for himself, man, because we going to need Zach LaVine. So, but yeah, I'm not fully concerned yet. I'm expecting the news to be okay, but I am expecting the news to say he needs to rest. And yeah, that's as far as I'm at with it.
I mean, it's an ugly scenario for a team that is already so depleted. And we were talking on our final episode last week, trying to implore some Bulls fans out there to calm down who were upset that they didn't make a move, because you might not like the reasoning for them standing pat, but they are, speaking of pat, expected to get some players back sometime in the next month. Patrick Williams, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. But I think even if they get all of those guys back and healthy sometime towards the end of the regular season, get a few games under their belt, and then this team is geared. If Zach LaVine is not all the way Zach LaVine, this is a one-and-done playoff team. In my opinion, if Zach LaVine is playing not at 100% Zach LaVine levels, I don't see the Bulls winning a first-round series. I really don't. For all of the heroics of DeMar DeRozan, for the ways in which Nikola Vucevic has played better in this last stretch of the season, one of the big reasons that the Bulls are 36-21 is because Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are the league's leading scoring duo of any team, any duo in the NBA. Those two are averaging collectively the highest points of any player duo in the NBA as of right now. The Bulls are not winning a playoff series without that version of Zach LaVine. Just not.
Yeah, it reminds you of Golden State, right? Like, you just knew they're not going to go far because they didn't have Klay Thompson out there. No matter how great Steph Curry was, no matter how awesome Draymond Green is, It's just, you're just not going to go far without that piece. And you need Zach LaVine. This is what the team was built around him for. This is why all these guys came here, was to play with this great player and finally get him to the playoffs and move on. So that's the important thing. All-Star game, 3-point contest, be damned. That's not the important thing for me out here. Important thing is Zach getting healthy and make sure he's all right. I'm on the side that he's going to be okay, but we'll see what they say after he sees the specialist on Monday.
Another, thing about the weekend injury-wise, Javonte Green singing his praises in that play against, Minnesota throughout the entire night, played amazing. Also, that kind of scary moment where he had that invisible trampoline he sometimes uses out there on the court for one of those dunks, and it was so forceful that the momentum of the follow-through of the dunk sent him flying through the air, and he landed thud on the court. Turns out he bruised his foot doing that and then missed the game on Saturday. What we heard from Billy, hopefully, is that this is just something minor. He might miss the game tonight against the Spurs. Maybe they'll also precautionary sit him on Wednesday, but hopefully it sounds like this is not a serious problem. You cannot afford to lose Javonte Green. You can't afford to lose the 5 Javonte Greens that are out there. Shout out Stacey King. I guess kind of good news, kind of bad news that he is out right now, but hopefully not too long term. Dave, Javonte, say what you will, you can't afford to lose that guy.
No, I mean, we saw when he was out, Matt, like what we were missing when he was going. You're missing that guy who knows when to cut. You're missing that guy who's an agitator, who gets on your nerves, who's going to defend that best player. Doesn't matter what position he's playing. He's going to have some success at that position. He's everywhere. Like you said, 5 Javonte Greens. He's everywhere when he is on the floor. No, you can't afford to lose him. You need him. So, again, this is why we were really excited for the All-Star break. It wasn't just because we wanted Zach and DeMar to be in the All-Star game. We wanted rest. Because for me, this is a free week for all the injuries that we've had. You know what I'm saying? So when I hear 6 to 8 weeks, for me, it becomes 5 to 7 because I'm removing a week because of the All-Star game. That's why this is so huge. You know what I'm saying? This is why it's so big. But yeah, Javonte, if it's just a bruised foot, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But it's not something where I'm like, you need to be out there Monday for us. You need to be out. You can have a seat too, my man. You know what I'm saying? Like we can go against the Spurs without you. We can go. I forget who we play the next game, but yeah, I think the Kings. I think it's the Kings. But yeah, man, we can go against those two teams without you, man. But because we're going to need you for this down the stretch, because it's going to get real after this All-Star break. So yeah, we're gonna need you, man. You can rest, Javonte, if you need to, bro.
Speaking of that dreaded 6 to 8 week timeline that Bulls fans have heard far too often over the last few months, the good news, injury-wise, Derrick Jones Jr.
Woo!
I was like, before I saw anything from Bulls beat reporters, the Bulls official Twitter account with status updates for the game on Saturday, I saw some fantasy basketball accounts that had kind of sprinkled into my feed listing Derrick Jones Jr. as questionable, which was clearly an upgrade from out. Dude said 6 to 8 weeks, and it's like week 2 of that 6 to 8 weeks from the fractured finger. And then questionable, all of a sudden, like a couple hours before tip-off, available. Derrick Jones Jr. available. Great news. Great news. And it was something that we heard could be a possibility. This fractured finger that he suffered while he was already on the shelf rehabbing that knee injury he suffered.
Yeah.
They said fractured finger, but it was his non-shooting hand, and that the original timeline, 6 to 8 weeks. But if he and the Bulls feel comfortable with him playing with a, some kind of cast or brace or splint on that fractured finger, that 6 to 8 weeks could be moved up substantially. And just like that, it happened on Saturday night. Derrick Jones Jr. off the bench for the Bulls, Dave.
Yeah, Matt, the minute I heard questionable, I was like, he's playing. It feels like that's what the Bulls injury report means now. Questionable means probable. Like, that's how I think of it now. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I see it, I see questionable, I'm like, probable. He's playing. Like, he's playing. He's out there. And that's why I asked you. I was like, wait, what finger is it? He was like, it's non-shooting. He's playing. I was like, he's out there. He's going to go play. And, man, Matt, you can't say enough about the toughness of athletes in general. because this dude is out there playing a sport where your hands are your most important thing, other than your feet. You know what I'm saying? Your hands are your most important thing. And a dude whose entire game has to do with him dunking the basketball. That's his game. You know what I'm saying? Getting up and dunking. And he's out there. You see it after every play. How much pain this dude was in, man. He's checking his finger. He's holding his finger. And then you're like, oh, man, I don't think he can go to take him out. And then he's going up for alley-oop. You know what I mean? Like, to go slam it, and then he's going to block a shot. Then he's trying to steal the ball and deflect it with that broken-fingered hand. And he's just like grimacing. You see the pain in him. And he goes to the sideline. He's like, no, I'm good. Put me back in. It's amazing. I can't say enough about the toughness of athletes, man. But it was good to have him out there because it was important to have him out there. He's going to be needed going down the line. We need all the bodies we can get going down the line. So if they're telling me that he can't do any more real damage to his finger, it's just he has to manage the pain of it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I can accept that. But, man, he's tough. Like, shout out there. That is a tough brother right there, for real.
And kind of like you said with Zach and Javonte hopping on that flight and meeting him down in OKC a few weeks ago, this could be Derrick Jones Jr. saying, hey, man, this team needs me. Like, this team needs me. And if the team doctors are cool with it and I'm cool with it and Billy's cool with it, I'll put this, little brace on my finger and I'll go out there and play. I'm going to do it. And obviously, especially with the talk and the trends recently of, are the Bulls going to look to add some size to this, woefully undersized team? Didn't happen at the trade deadline. We'll see if something still might happen on the buyout market. As far as backup centers go, Derrick Jones Jr., kind of an undersized center. But when he was healthy earlier this season and playing those minutes as a small ball backup 5, those lineups actually looked pretty darn good. Really good. At least it's some size, and the Bulls will take any size they can get right now.
Oh, no question about it. You'll take whatever size or position you want to give to the Chicago Bulls. We're going to take it right now.
But the multifaceted ways in which Derrick Jones Jr. can be of service to you on the defensive end.
Yes, man. Absolutely. Great point. And also, I think he also came back knowing that the All-Star break, he's going to have a week off. So coming in and getting in a couple of games to get your feet wet and then being able to rest that finger for another week, I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons he was like, okay, let me go out here and try this out, man. So we about to get some people back. That's all I know. Every day I get closer to Patrick Williams being back on the floor. That dude ain't wearing nothing on his wrist. He looks right in shape. Me and Matt saw him in person. That is a huge human being. We saw that man in person.
One of my other favorite moments from an amazing Friday night at the Madhouse was that one moment where you kind of like pull me over and you're like, dude, look at P-Dub on the bench. He is gigantic.
Dude, man.
I mean,
I was blown away. It's colossal.
That's a large young man. Patrick Williams, large young man. All right, that's it for today. We've got a full week of episodes up ahead for you guys, including tomorrow. We'll break down what happens in this Bulls-Spurs rematch on Monday night. Tip-off about 7 hours away from now. Bulls owe the Spurs a little payback after the Bulls defense said, here you go, to the Spurs a couple weeks ago. In the meantime, hit us up on that text voicemail line 331-979-1369, on Twitter at Bulls_Peck, at BAWL Sports, and at Locked On Bulls. Thanks again for the tickets, John. You rock. Mario and Lupe, you rock too. Bulls Nation's everywhere. Buzz, Bulls on tap, you rock too.
Yes.
For Big Dave, I'm Matt. See Red, be good. Peace.